Hello, Capstone Committee. So as you may remember, my project was done at the middle schools. Because of the laws surrounding privacy and photo release, I was unable to film my presentation there, so this is my way of sharing my final product with you. I'll be acting as though I have the audience in the middle school, so there's going to be some moments that are kind of Blue's Cluesy, in the sense that I'm going to ask a question and get no response and give a pause. Hello, my name is Bausenwein, and I'm here to talk about my experience coming out. I call this presentation The Rainbow Connection because it is an outreach program for LGBTQ+ youth from me at the high school. I'm here to talk about my experience coming out, and you can find me at nbausen if you want to follow me on Instagram or connect after this. So you're probably wondering who this person's coming to our school. Like, I interrupted your class, and now I'm here, so you want to know why I'm here, who I am. So I'm a senior at Monmouth Regional High School. I'm a competitive figure skater. For the past 5 years, I've been in the top 4 of the states of New York and New Jersey. I'm involved with band at the school. I was a trumpet soloist. You might remember me from jazz band when we came and visited your school in May. I spoke about how you can do band and other activities. I was the field commander this year and a trumpet soloist, like I said. I'm on the mock trial team. I'm in a couple other clubs like Latin Club. I'm in the National Honor Society at my school. And I'm gay. I've been openly gay since my sophomore year of high school when I came out, and I'm here to talk about my journey coming to accept that. So, my journey really started when I was young. Growing up, I was always more feminine than most boys. This started really from an early age. I mean, even in preschool, I kind of noticed it. I tended to gravitate more towards the princess movies. I love the princess movies, rather than the action movies with superheroes. At playtime, when we would get to go to centers and choose our activities, a lot of the other boys would go to blocks, and I would tend to go more with the girls to the areas like home living. And I got bullied for this. I was bullied a lot in kindergarten because I liked the princesses, but the first time I was actually bullied for being gay was in 2nd grade. I started figure skating then. It was something I was really proud of. It was something that was really cool, really unique, and it made me feel very special. But unfortunately, other people didn't think that. They thought it made me weird and different because it's typically a girls' sport. In 2nd grade at a Boy Scout meeting, I actually got called gay for the first time. I didn't fully understand what this concept meant, but yet someone was assigning this label to me in a negative way, which just stuck with me, really. And it kind of continued for years. I mean, through 6th grade and a lot through middle school, and it caused me to hide who I was. Not just my sexuality, but also some of the things I enjoyed that was more feminine. I stopped talking about skating as much at school. If someone ever mentioned preschool where I liked the princesses, I would try to shut it down as soon as possible because I didn't want people to think I was gay and assign this label to me. So, middle school was a rough couple of years for me. I went to Memorial Middle School in Eatontown, and I had a good experience with most stuff, but I definitely was bullied for my sexuality before I even had accepted it. So I was the figure skater who does theater. I am kind of a walking stereotype for gay people, and this kind of caused constant rumors for me. But you can see right here me in my middle school prime. I'm wearing my Grease sweatshirt in front of a Wicked sign. I didn't even see Wicked that day. I was just so obsessed with it, I made my parents take it, and I kind of talked about it all the time. I rambled on about it, so people assumed I was gay because that's something that's more feminine. So there were constant rumors about me. I remember hearing in line at lunch people behind me asking my best friends if I was gay and saying that I was going to come out soon and that I had told people when I hadn't even accepted my sexuality for myself. And this kind of led to my friends beginning to question me too, in little interrogations almost. One of my best friends, I remember, came up to me in health class and flat out asked me in front of the entire class if I was gay. And this was something I was starting to realize at this time, but hadn't fully accepted, so I immediately freaked out. I was like, no, and I got really just upset and angry at my friend because they were asking me this question, and they knew this was something that bothered me, because when people would bully me for it. This kind of caused me to be always uncomfortable. Remember, again, in health class one day, we had to do an activity where we had to go around the room, and this might seem normal for most people, but they asked us our type, as in what we found attractive in people. I was still figuring this out at that time. So everyone else said something like they want someone who was blonde or short or other characteristics like that, and I just kind of freaked out and said girls because I had absolutely no idea what I was looking for. And just things like this always made me really uncomfortable in middle school. One of the things that added to that was the gay comments that really plagued my experience. Going down the hallways, I hear people say something like, "That's so gay," just constant things like that. It really put this negative image of gay in my head, and it made me feel like people weren't accepting these days. And that made it a lot harder for me to come out because I felt like people wouldn't be accepting of it. And it made me not want to be gay. So I'm going to talk about accepting I was gay. I had a very long state of denial. I'd say I started to notice I was different in about 6th grade or 5th grade. At this point, I started to realize that I would have celebrity crushes on guys, and I found men attractive, and I didn't really find women attractive in the same way. But I really did not want to be gay. Because people had assumed this my whole life, I had spent so long denying it. Like I said, I got bullied in 2nd grade, so I had already spent 4 years at this point denying this huge part of myself. And my former figure skating coaches actually would praise me for being a real man when I skated, because I was not gay, like most of them typically are. And I really didn't want to give up this part of myself that was supposedly superior to what my true self actually was. And just these kind of comments made me fight who I was, and it made it a lot harder. Eventually I did accept I was gay. My best friend and I at the time started to develop into more of a friendship, and I fell for them. And they asked me out, and I said no. I was like, "No, I'm not gay." And then I was like, "Yeah, kinda am." But after that, I was like, okay, I know I'm definitely not straight. I went through a period for like 2 weeks where I thought I was bi, and then I finally just accepted it to myself. I completely let go of any part of me I was trying to hide, and I was like, yes, this is me, I am gay. So next I'm going to talk about my coming out experience. It was one of the most terrifying things I've ever done. I'm pretty comfortable talking about myself and talking to other people. I've performed in front of hundreds of people. I've been streamed live around the country for skating, and I've fallen while being streamed live around the country for skating. So I've definitely had my share of embarrassment, and also just like not having a fear of actually going in front of people. But this was absolutely horrifying. So we're gonna call my ex George. George and I were very close friends, like I said, so we had a lot of the same mutual friends. We decided to start telling them over text. We told my one friend at the same time. We typed out a long message and we sent it to them, and it was one of the most horrifying things I've ever done. Even with the whole digital courage thing. So we would send out this long text, and right as we were about to hit send, my body just completely went into freak out mode. Like, I was sweating, I was shaking, my teeth were literally chattering. I was so scared. I was like violently shaking. My chest felt tight. I just felt so much anxiety because I was worried of what they were going to say. But luckily for me, everyone I told had an extremely positive reaction. It kind of got easier with each person, but it still was absolutely terrifying each time I sent it. I actually have a couple screenshots of 3 of my friends. They're also in the AP Academy: Caitlin Fisher, Caitlin Petz, and Grace Bushney. So I told them slightly differently, but you can see the reactions here. You can see I don't want to point at the TV because it will affect the lighting, so I'll use the mouse. You can see right here, this was Grace's reaction. They all kind of sent selfies of them really happy for me. And then Caitlin Fisher said how she was so happy for me. I said thank you. And then Caitlin was like, wait, really? Yo, this is so lit, Nikki, go you. And they asked me to tell the story. And then Caitlin Fisher got jealous because I was the only one of them with a boyfriend. And that was just, it felt really good to be accepted, and to know that my 3 best friends had my back. So coming out to my friends was one thing, but eventually I had to come out to my parents. And this was a really good lesson for me on being careful what you post on the internet. So it was George's birthday, and I posted this long, sappy, emotional, very dramatic birthday post. And I mentioned in it how I was happy we'd become more than friends, to imply that we were dating. I'm a figure skater, I said it earlier. Dealing with figure skating moms, to put it bluntly, is like dealing with middle school girls. They just blabber and gossip, and it is a mess. So once I saw my skating friends started to like it, I knew that I had to tell my parents soon. And my predictions came true because I heard moms at the rink talking about it and asking if I had told my parents yet. So, like I said, I posted this on Instagram. My parents have Instagram and they follow me. But I assume, my mom and dad are like 45, they're ancient, they don't know how to use Instagram. Meanwhile, my dad works with he's in IT, so he knows technology better than I do. But so they figured it out. But they didn't tell me. They actually consulted some of their openly gay friends and listened to their advice that I should get to come to them. So, it's really late at night, and I decided I'm going to tell my parents, and my sister would not leave. I wanted to tell them alone. I had no problem telling my sister, but I just wanted this to be a moment between me, my mom, and my dad. So, my sister would not leave. I am sitting over here in the corner, not this exact room, but upstairs, and I am just dying on the inside. I am so nervous. I'm not thinking straight, and I'm just have this fear that my parents aren't going to accept me and that nothing's ever going to be the same. But, luckily I was wrong. But then my sister finally went upstairs, and it was like 9:30, and my parents go to bed really early, so they were about to head upstairs. The way my house is set up is, here's our living room right here, our kitchen, and then there's a hallway, and then other rooms over here that aren't relevant to the story right now, and then the stairs to go up. So we had a puppy at the time, so we had baby gates blocking off from the kitchen into the hallway and into the other room too. So my dad is over the baby gate all the way down the hallway, and my mom is like holding 2 glasses of water straddling the baby gate, and me, I'm like, well, this is the perfect time to have a long, serious conversation. So I started the conversation off like, Mom, Dad, I have to tell you something. They knew something I had to tell them, so they just looked at me very seriously, and I told them, George and I are dating. And then we started talking a little bit. They asked me about my sexuality, if I thought I was bi, because I had a girlfriend. I was like, maybe. I honestly have no idea, and because I still hadn't accepted it fully yet. But then at the end of the conversation, I was like, surprise. But yeah, so then they were like, no, we knew the whole time. This was a shock for me, but I was just so happy they accepted me. We started talking a little bit more about why I didn't come out earlier, because they had suspected I was gay the summer because, like I said, George and I were really close. We were basically dating that whole summer, even though we weren't. But my mom eventually ended up crying, not because she was sad, but she was just so happy I finally told her. And yeah. So we haven't told my grandparents because they have a very old-fashioned way of thinking, and we just don't want to cause drama within the family. So for a while we didn't tell my extended family. Eventually George and I went to prom though. So my mom decided to post on Facebook about it, and I'll read it to you guys now. Here's a picture of Nick and his boyfriend at prom this past weekend. I have blocked some family members to keep this from my elderly parents who sadly I don't think will understand. Anyone who knows Nick and his boyfriend cannot help but love them. I ask if you cannot support them or me, please quietly unfriend me. I will not change your mind, nor you mine. It is my job as his parent to provide unconditional love and support and protection. We are so proud of the man he's becoming and wish him only happiness and success. This post was huge for me because it really just, even though it was months after I had come out to them, it just showed me that my parents really had my back and were willing to put their necks out there to fight for me. I'd also like to point out, this is not George, this is my Olympic diver boyfriend who does not know I exist, but it's fine because we're still madly in love. So, it's blocked by the picture, but one of the misconceptions I had about coming out was that it was a one-time thing, but it's really become an endless cycle of kind of gauging where I feel comfortable coming out and in what manner. So, over the summer, I was fortunate enough to attend Boy State, which is a program that takes the top 900 high school boys, and we go to a college for a week, and we had to run our own government. I was freaking out before because I was really nervous that I was going to be the only gay one there. People weren't going to accept me. Luckily, I couldn't have been more wrong. But so for the first half, I didn't really come out. And then actually towards the middle of the week, I came out in a political speech when I was running for office in front of 450 of the delegates who were there with me. And that was absolutely terrifying. But it really, people came up to me after, and I learned that I was not alone. I was very fortunate to have all those people there, and it was a really good experience. I'll talk more about later. So I want to talk about some positives that have come out of my life after coming out. I received nothing but love and support from my families, my teachers, my friends, my coaches. One of the things is letting me do this capstone. My school let me do a 10-month project on coming out and let me reach out to the middle schools. And that is just truly an awesome experience for me. I also got to write both of my term papers last year on the history of the gay rights movement. So I got to actually learn about the history of this, which we don't really get to learn about in school a lot. And my school also worked with me to rewrite the anti-discrimination policy to be more inclusive because it didn't have gender identity or sexual orientation in it previously. And then my coaches actually, this is kind of funny, sometimes yell at me for not being flamboyantly gay enough in my programs. My coach said, I think this is the exact quote, I don't need the full chandelier of flamboyantly gay, but a nice little candelabra would be good, because they wanted me to be a little more expressive in my programs. And then my family, all of them had my back, and it's just been so amazing. Within the LGBTQ plus community, there is such a strong sense of community. It's in the name. But like I said at Boise State, so after I came out on stage, I had people DMing me on Instagram. I had people coming up to me in person. I had Vietnam veterans coming up to me and commending me for my bravery. And this was really a surreal experience because these people fought in one of the roughest wars in history. And they were telling me I was brave and sharing their experience with me. And it was such an amazing experience to be able to connect with these people. I actually had a figure skater one time from the Midwest who we don't really talk. I've never competed against him, but he reached out for me and asked for advice, and that was really cool. So I've been able to connect with a lot of people who I wouldn't have been able to connect with if I hadn't been living my authentic life. I also kind of got my life together more. My freshman year, I spread myself very thin. My grades were not horrible, but they were B+, and I'm used to being an A student. So this was just a struggle for me, and getting used to high school was a big adjustment, especially with the AP Academy. But I also had this burden on my shoulder of hiding who I was. And I'm not using it as an excuse in any way, but once I had this burden just lifted off my shoulders, I started exceeding so much more. I was just happier. I wasn't worried about pleasing everyone else. I focused on actually just being myself. And my grades I went from a B+ student to an A+ student. I started performing much better in skating and in band, and it was really just so amazing, the transformation that I saw immediately after I came out. One of the other things is this is the most liberating experience I've ever had. When you hide who you are for 15 years of your life and you're finally able to just say to the world, this is who I am, I really don't need your acceptance or approval, I love myself. It is just so amazing, and it has made me feel so liberated. And this next perk doesn't happen for most gay people, but it happened for me, which is really cool. This is a picture of me on Fox 5 in New York City. So my friends and I went to go skate in Rockefeller Center and see a Broadway show. And we saw this area with a bunch of TV cameras and this giant shredder. So we went to go check it out. And I went up, and you're supposed to shred away the negativity of 2017. So I shred away a paper that said homophobic comments, and the reporters ate it up. I ended up on CBS, ABC, and Fox, I believe, along with New Jersey 12. I was interviewed for newspapers, and I was actually quoted in a Vietnamese website about New York City, which was really cool. And if I hadn't been living my authentic life, I wouldn't have gotten to experience that. And I just think it shows just how great things have been ever since I've come out. But obviously, there's been some struggles too. One of the most vivid memories of being called a homophobic slur behind my back was actually within the AP Academy my sophomore year. So we were reading the Scarlet Letter, and in the Scarlet Letter, the main character, Hester Prynne, has to wear a red A on her chest to symbolize her sin, adultery, and it causes the whole town to shun her for it because of their religious society. Our project was to create a letter for our own sin. It didn't have to be a biblical sin, it could be a personal flaw. I think I did procrastination, so I did P. But one of my classmates decided it would be funny to tell someone else that I should do F for faggot. I was newly coming out, struggling to accept who I was, and I was finally comfortable. And I was greeted by someone who I had spent the entirety of my freshman year with, and who was supposed to be pretty close with me, calling me a faggot. And this was horrible. I didn't take any action, but I really considered going to someone and saying this, because this was really hard for me to accept, and I was finally proud of myself, and to have someone call me a homophobic slur is just disgusting. One of the other vivid memories I have was actually in New York City by a complete random stranger. So the day after prom, George and I decided to go into New York, and we were going to buy tickets to see Avenue Q on Broadway, off Broadway. So it was very early in the morning. We had been out late the night before. We're walking through Times Square, and I mean, you guys, have you ever been through New York City? Yeah, so you know all those people who are trying to push their mixtape on the street corners? Yeah, they came up to me, or they actually screamed to us as we were walking by, "Hey, you gay boys, come over here," because we were holding hands, like any normal couple would do. And we started talking to them, and they're, kind of nice. At first, I kind of got this vibe of they were, like, really accepting of us. And then one of them goes, "How old are you guys?" I'm like, 16, and George was 18. And they go, "You're 16? You're too young to know you're a faggot." I was extremely taken aback by this, because here is this probably 30-year-old man who I've never met before, verbally attacking me, and I was 16 at the time. During Pride Month, too. So you'd think the streets of New York would be really kind of clear at this time. Calling me a homophobic slur. And this really kind of ruined my image of the world, and I'm not trying to be melodramatic at all. The rest of the day I spent worrying about being attacked. There were people following us, and it just kind of caused me to be constantly on guard now. And it's been really hard, because New York's really never been the same ever since that happened for me. And there's no other way to put it. It sucks that I feel unsafe in society because of who I am and who I love. While we're talking about New York, this is a picture of me on the street of Waverly Place and Gay Street. I don't know if you middle schoolers are too young to remember this. Waverly Place is one of the sets of one of my favorite TV shows from when I was a kid, and then Gay Street, I just took it because I'm gay. I'm in a very feminine pose, and this just kind of shows me being able to enjoy myself again in New York City, which is important for me. But actually, a fun fact, this is actually this very street where the gay rights movement started, with the Stonewall riots. So that was pretty cool. Just a little fun fact in there. So, I talked about how I was verbally attacked, but I was also physically attacked. And this happened at the Italian American Festival in Ocean, which was in August of 2017. George was home for a week in the summer. He had been at college for the whole summer, because he used to do a pre-freshman summer program, and then he came back, and so we had like a week together. We were trying to enjoy our time to the best we could before he went off for his first semester. We were at the Italian American Festival, and we were walking, and then we started to hold hands. And about 10 seconds later, after we started holding hands, someone threw trash at me. You really don't understand how less of a human you feel until someone throws a piece of garbage at you for just being yourself. After this, I was so angry and confused and sad, and it just really made me feel negated as a person. It was one of the most horrible experiences I've ever had, and it was at this place where I had grown up and always had such fond memories of going to, and it's really hard. I mean, that was an awful experience. So now I want to take this time to go through some gay stereotypes. I gathered these by looking at GLAAD's report on annual television. One of the things I didn't mention is race. 70% of LGBTQ plus characters are white when they're in TV shows and movies. This, I think it was like 76% in movies and 73% in TV shows, which is really hard because that doesn't show the full picture. and it makes it harder for people of color to actually have someone to look up to. So we're going to go through some stereotypes. So when you see a gay person, what kind of voice do they typically have? Is it high-pitched or is it super low? High-pitched? Yeah, that's correct. What kind of body type do they typically have? Are they, average, super bulky, bigger, or are they always just kind of super skinny and super fit? Yep, they're always super skinny or super muscular. How's their hair usually? Yeah, it's always very well kept. And their teeth? Yep, shiny and white. Also straight, ironically. The clothes. Are they usually kind of dressed like a slob, or are they very well kept together and in very fashionable clothes, sometimes very feminine clothes? Yep, they're always very fashion forward. What kind of interests do they have? Are they the varsity athlete, or are they the theater kid? Yep, the theater kid. Their mannerisms. Are they super masculine, or are they super feminine, or usually in between? Yeah, they're definitely super feminine. And do they usually have any athletic ability? No. So we're going to go through how these stereotypes actually apply to me. So my voice is typically higher pitched than most men. My body type, I am pretty skinny. I definitely have the athletic build from figure skating. My hair, it's not perfect. It's very well kept though, and I always try to focus on it a little bit. My teeth, I always want to make sure they're brushed and, clean and that they're white. My clothes, I do not fit this at all. If I was not here giving you this presentation right now, I would probably be in sweatpants and my Wizard of Oz middle school sweatshirt. So I definitely do not fit that. Interest in artsy stuff, I definitely am more interested in artsy stuff than sports. The mannerisms, I'd say I'm kind of in the middle, because, I'm not like, yas, queen, but I'm not like, grr, super tough. Athletic ability, I am a competitive athlete, and I have excelled at my sport, but I also cannot throw a ball to save my life. So, as you can see, through even just me, the stereotype doesn't fully represent me, and it might cause people to have misconceptions about me. But there are other problems with these stereotypes, one of them being body type. So there's this extreme pressure on men, the body type, to be extremely skinny. And this has a huge effect on people, and it gives a lot of people a lot of body image issues. And because whenever I see a gay person on TV, they're always extremely fit, and that's kind of how I think I'm supposed to look, and I'm just expected to look like that. And that's not the case for everyone. And one of the other big problems is that they never show a gay athlete. So for me, I'm lucky. I'm in an individualized sport, and I'm in a very gay-populated sport. So they've been very accepting. But for athletes, they have an added additional pressure of their team not accepting them, because they never have anyone to look up to, and they never see any athletes represented in media as being able to be openly out on their team. So next we're going to go through some things that are offensive that you might not realize are offensive. One of the big things is assuming that we are walking stereotypes, because it assumes that we're all the same, and a lot of these stereotypes are meant to think that we are more feminine, which is supposed to mean that we are weaker. And this really just takes away from our individuality and doesn't allow us to be seen as people. We're just kind of seen as gay. One of the other things, this was more popular back in the early 2000s, but the idea of a gay best friend, I've still heard it. It really invalidates the rest of our personality, and it makes us feel like we're being used. Because you're saying to me, I want you to gossip and do my hair and do my nails and give me fashion advice. If I dress you up, I'm going to be like, oh yeah, sweatpants are really comfortable. If you want me to do your makeup, you'll look like a clown. And if I do your hair, it's going to be a rat's nest. The gossip one, I'm very good at that, unfortunately. But when you want me for these things, you want me as an accessory, and it feels like you don't want me as your friend. And that really doesn't work with me, because I want to have a genuine friendship. Another thing that might be offensive is asking extremely personal questions. And you might just genuinely be curious, and someone like me, I'm very comfortable answering them, but not everyone is. A lot of people have negative experiences with their sexuality because of their family at home. I remember reading testimonies of people in this book called Stonewall: The Riots That Started the Gay Revolution. This was in the 70s, so it was a slightly different political climate and social climate than it is now. But I remember actually reading about this guy who was thrown through a glass door by his father and called a faggot because he was gay. They kicked him out of his house, and he was homeless. And a lot of the youth in New York City were homeless, which has actually been a persistent problem today. And the struggle to accept sexuality actually adds more stress to gay people. The American Psychological Association did a study, and it showed that the stress levels of gay men were much higher than the ones of straight people. And there was an increase in depression, and the risk of suicide for transgender people was over 3 times as much as cisgender people, which is terrifying. So asking these personal questions, you really don't know what's fully going on. So before you ask them, ask if they're comfortable talking about it, because it might just be bringing up bad memories, even if you are just curious. One of the other ones is asking who the man and the woman is. So I kind of want to break down a word for you. Same-sex relationship. So the same-sex part implies that we're both the same gender, and the relationship part means we are romantically involved with each other. So we're both the same gender, and that's the entire point of it. There is no man and there is no woman, and this kind of assumes that one of us has to be super masculine and one of us has to be super feminine, when in reality that's not the case all the time. You know, there are gay couples where one is super masculine and one's super feminine. There's one where they're both super masculine, there's one where there's both super feminine, and there's some people in the middle, like me. I saw something that pretty accurately described this. I saw 2 things. I saw these on Twitter. One of them was a fork and a spoon asking a pair of chopsticks who the fork and the spoon was. And another one was asking a gay couple who the man and the woman is like asking a vegan which vegetable is their meat. So it just shows that it really doesn't make sense. So the next thing is really one of the most horrible things you can do, and it's outing someone. So you have no right to decide when this person tells people this is supposed to be their journey, and they get to decide when they're comfortable sharing this side of themselves. And it can really have negative implications. I mentioned before all those stories. There are still cultures in the world where sexuality is not accepted like it is, like we think in America. But, you know, being a nation of immigrants, people can still come from these countries into America and bring those ideals with them. There's actually a country called Chechnya, which is owned by Russia, and there actually currently is a genocide going on of gay people. They're taking them away from their families and telling their families either you kill them honorably or we're going to kill them. And that's horrible that this is still going on, and you don't want to cause someone's family to react like that to them and kick them out of the house. Another one is, I'm fine with you being gay, but can you not shove it in my face? We are the same as heterosexual couples, and we just, if we're walking down the streets holding hands, or, you know, give a hug, or like a quick peck, like it's a kiss, you know, obviously not full on like making out because that's disgusting and nobody should be doing that, but we're just trying to exist the same as heterosexual couples. And for you to tell us that you don't want us to shove it in your face when we're just acting like a regular couple is really putting us back socially 60 years to when we weren't allowed to hold jobs in the federal government, and when it was actually considered a mental disorder. This one's personally the most annoying, and it's the most I've frequently heard. That's so gay. I hear this used on a daily basis. I'm not even kidding. Like, most of the time I hear it in school. And there are just so many issues with this because, first of all, it does not make sense. So does anyone know what the definition of gay is? Yeah. So it either means happy or it means someone who is attracted to someone of the same gender. So it's not a synonym for stupid, feminine, or weird. And using this term is rude, it's offensive, and it's annoying. Because you're taking this huge part of my identity and you're adapting it to mean something negative. And that's not okay, because I hear this, and it's like me taking your name and saying that it's supposed to mean something stupid. There's actually a commercial that did that, starring Reese Witherspoon, that Monmouth Regional showed a couple weeks ago from the early 2000s. So I want to give some advice. If you ever are feeling like you might be gay and you want to come out, here's some things that helped me. Don't feel pressured, and remember, this is your journey. So this gets to happen at your own pace, and no one else gets to decide. I'd recommend starting off small, because then you have that backbone of support that is there for you, and it really just helped me through my experience, because I was always able to go with them when I was nervous or had my problems. If someone doesn't accept who you are, then you are way too good for them. You've been this way your entire life, and you're just now deciding to share it with them. So if they suddenly decide that they don't want to accept that, then that's their loss, and you don't need someone like that in your life. They're very toxic. This is a really old cliche, but it gets better. I mean, it truly does. Before I came out, I was terrified, I was confused all the time, and I really didn't know how people were going to accept me. But now that I've come out, I'm so much happier, and I'm doing so much better in basically everything I do. I mean, even Ms. Mottershead, the teacher I'm with today, said she noticed that I just seem a lot happier than when I was in middle school. And I think that's really amazing to hear, that even other people can see how much it's changed my life. Don't be afraid to reach out to your guidance counselors. Your secret's going to be safe, and this will be protected by your constitutional right to privacy, which has been upheld in court multiple times. I read this on the ACLU website. So your teachers aren't going to go out you to your family. They're really going to be there to help support you. And remember, you're not alone. You are going to think you're the only one going through this. I mean, I know I did. It's truly something that you just think, I'm the only one who's ever had to go through this. But you'll find that there's so many other people like you out there. I remember I had a group chat. It was 6 people. 5 of us ended up being gay, and we all thought we were straight at the beginning of it. So it just kind of goes to show that there are people out there, even in unexpected places. Now I want to give some advice for people whose friends might be coming out. So the first thing is, do not pressure them. They really need to go on this journey themselves, and they need your support. They don't need you going out and telling their secrets to everyone. Which brings me to my next one, keep their secrets. I explained the impact that outing someone can have, and you don't want to do that to your friend. So make sure you keep their secrets. I mean, I know when someone tells me something, I'm like, oh yeah, I won't tell anybody. And then I immediately go and tell my best friend. But this is not one of those things you can do. Always be there for them, because they really need you as the friend. Even if it gets annoying and repetitive and you're like, oh my god, we get it, you have to tell people you're gay. Just always be there for them, because no, it really is terrifying when you tell people that this huge part of yourself you've been hiding for so long. Always let your friends come to you. You might think you're helping them by asking them if they want to talk about it or asking if they're gay, but it's really could end up having more negative implications than positive. Personally, like when my friends asked me, it made me try to repress myself further, and I know that wasn't their intention, but that's what kind of happened because of it. Remember, they're the same person that they were before. So they're sharing this side of you, but it's been who they are their entire life. They're that same friend. So just treat them normally, don't treat them any differently, and just be their friend and be there for them. That's all they want, to be treated normally. Thank you so much for paying attention to me. Now I'd like to direct you to the list of resources I provided you so I can explain those further. Okay, so the top are some local resources that you could go to, but because you're in middle school and can't drive, these might not be as accessible for you, especially if you don't have accepting parents. So I want to focus your attention to the national resources. So many of you have heard of the National Suicide Prevention Hotline. There's actually one specifically geared towards LGBTQ+ youth. This is called the Trevor Project. A couple years ago, there was a kid named Trevor, and he committed suicide as a result of bullying because of his sexuality. So his friends and family got together, and they made this national service for people to talk to people about coming out and to talk them down from suicide. So this one is really good. They have a bunch of different options. They have their suicide hotline. They have it over text. They have it over Messenger online. So that way, if you don't want to be like verbally communicating this for fear of your family hearing it. And they also have this place called Trevor Space. And this is a place where young people can all communicate online, so they know they're not alone with each other. The next one is another really good one, GOBT Hotline. They have a youth talk line and a national hotline. So these both are great for advice on coming out, if you're worried about it, or you just need to talk to someone about the way you're feeling. They have an LGBT teens online talk group, which is really cool, and it's monitored to make sure that there's no creepy people in it, and it's just a space for you to be able to connect with other people, so that way you know that you're not alone. And they have 2 other wines for youth transgender and teen transgender. These are really good because transgenders do really have a completely different experience because the transformation they go through is so drastic. Another thing that's really amazing about this website is the fact that it has this option called the escape button. So that way, if your parents walk in and you don't want them to know, you click on it and it brings you right back to the Google homepage. I also want to bring your attention to the resources that you have in your school. So guidance counselors are specially trained to deal with all types of situations that you might have. And like I said before, they won't tell your parents, so they're very great people to talk to. Sometimes teachers are an amazing source to talk to if you're personally connected to one. I know I always felt comfortable talking to Miss Mitchell about problems I might have been having because she runs the GSA here. And she's usually willing to talk about almost anything. I mean, she has a sign on her bulletin board that says, "You can talk to me about anything." Another great option is the GSA at our school. So the GSA is the Gay Straight Alliance, and it's a place where a lot of LGBTQ plus people come together, and we can really be open with ourselves. So it's great to just meet other people and be able to know that you're not alone in Monmouth and find other people who are going through similar struggles. So if you ever need any of these resources, I hope you hold on to this paper because know that they're there for you and they can really help you. Again, thank you so much for paying attention and for listening to my message. I hope that this helped anyone who might have needed it.